Hi there, my name's Lisa Barclay and I'm Communications Manager for H&P's Eastern Hemisphere. I'm delighted to be joined today by Adi Arimo, Head of Project Management, Eastern Hemisphere Land, and Abdulaziz Al-Safran, also known as Aziz. Aziz is Projects QHSE Specialist and both colleagues are based in Daman in Saudi Arabia. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
We recently announced the reactivation of several rigs in Saudi Arabia, and in this edition, we're focusing on what we've learned in bringing the two organisations together and how we're delivering safe, effective reactivation during a demanding period of work. This conversation is part of our wider focus on integration, collaboration, and leveraging experience from both legacy companies as we continue to deliver safe, efficient operations for our customers. We'll be sharing some practical examples also of how that looks in action. So to start with, I'm delighted to have you both here. So could you please introduce yourselves and tell us what you're responsible for in the Saudi Arabia reactivation work? Thank you.
Delighted to be here. Thanks, Lisa. I'll let Aziz go first with introductions.
Thank you, Adi, and thanks, Lisa, for the warm introduction. My name is Abdulaziz Al-Safran. Everyone can call me Aziz. I support HSC in Saudi Arabia operations, and a big part of my work has been helping our teams to execute the rig reactivation safely while integrating people, systems, as well as multiple ways of working into the HMP operating model. At the core of my role is about readiness, discipline, as well as alignment, making sure that we can move fast without losing any control, while creating an environment where the teams are enabled to do the job the right way.
Thank you, Aziz. Over to you, Ade. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Adi Aremu. I am Head of Project Management for HMP, Eastern Hemisphere. I lead a team of project managers planning and executing a portfolio of projects covering new build rigs, international rig moves, rig reactivations, of course, major rig upgrades in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. And as you mentioned, the Saudi reactivation is one of the exciting projects in the portfolio of projects we have. We've been working very closely with Abdulaziz.
Well, lovely to have you both, as we've said. So if I might just kick off, if we could perhaps discuss what for you would you say has been the biggest hurdle, or indeed the first things that we need to tackle when we're combining two large organizations with different safety programs?
So I would answer this question. So the biggest hurdle was that variability. So when you have when you are bringing together two legacy organizations, you also bring different routines, different habits of decision making, different expectations, and that creates a risk at the interface. So what helped us was that treating integration itself as something that we operate through. So we have focused on creating one standard, one language, and a clear accountability across the functions. This is also where the ideal team player mindset. So we needed people who were humble enough to learn from each other, hungry enough to work and improve, and smart enough to work well across the functions. So that combination really helped us to align and overcome those hurdles.
Sure. Thank you. Do you have any additional reflections on that, Adi?
And I recognize what Aziz was saying there, absolutely. I think another interesting consideration for my side really is basically allowing the natural change curve to take its course. On an integration of this sort, we're dealing with people who, in different aspects, there's a variance to what you're typically used to doing for good reasons, because we're trying to take the best of both worlds. We're rooting that change in the fact that ultimately we're trying to achieve the same goal, which is ensuring that all our people get back home safely. Yeah, that's the goal. It hasn't changed. The way we do it might look a bit different. I think that helps to get the buy-in that makes people go through the change curve efficiently and gives us the good results that we're proud of today.
Sure. We never compromise on safety. That's so true. And for those watching who may not be familiar, what's one thing people may not realize about reactivation versus everyday operations, particularly from a safety perspective?
I would say reactivation is different than normal operations. Why? Because there is a different kind of pressure. And the reactivation mode is fast moving, non-routine, with multiple activities happening at the same time. We have inspections, trainings, commissioning, verification, mobilization. All of these are happening at the same time. However, in normal operations, systems are already stable. People know they are planning ahead on their 24 hours lookup. But on reactivation, the environment keep changing. The beauty of the team that we are working together is that we are adaptive whenever those changes happen. So, in summary, is all about the discipline of the team and accountability.
Yeah, that's understandable. We have to be expecting everything that's coming our way.
No, indeed. And Lisa, maybe to add some more color to that. And I know we talk about reactivation. Reactivation is S with an S here in Saudi. Yeah, this is smiling because the scale of what we're dealing with here is exciting because that's what we want, delivering value to our clients, but it also comes with its own interesting aspects. And the way I like to sort of pitch it from a project point of view is there's two stages. There is the stage of making the rig ready. And then once the rig is ready, there's a stage of getting that ready rig to the field to commence operations. Now, the second stage is more like a rig move. So that looks a lot more like what people might think is typical operations, but the make ready phase is very different because you have equipment stripped down in its full form, all kinds of inspections going on. Basically, everything we're doing is about making sure that rig is ready to work for as much as 5 years in some cases for some equipment without needing a major inspection anymore. So it's very detailed, it's non-routine, and there's lots of stripped down equipment everywhere as part of doing the right thing, making sure things are ready to go out without any problems in the future.
Yeah, I understand that. There's a lot to consider all at once. And how would you say then integration has helped you deliver safer and stronger outcomes in Saudi Arabia?
So, as I said earlier, integration is there are so much variability, right? But once we have completed the integration, helped us to reduce the variability and increases the predictability. So when the teams share one standard, as I mentioned earlier, one language and one way of operating philosophy, the work becomes safer and more reliable. So we will have seen better readiness, fewer hiccups here and there, stronger execution. It's also helped us to build a stronger enabling environment. So I touched base earlier about creating an enabling environment, which is the core of HMP way. So leveraging the experience from both legacies to execute such a reactivation project helped us to create that stronger enabling environment.
Yeah. So having those strong principles and strong guidelines has really benefited, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Indeed. And to kind of add to that perspective, my thoughts are very similar. So I think that, it's helped us in two ways. The first one being, and Aziz will recognize this, that the more we come together, the more we realize how much the legacy companies have in common. So we're basically as a team, all the way from the office to the rigs, discovering what our senior management team knew when they decided to go for this acquisition, right? There's a lot that, legacy companies have in common that is becoming more visible as we integrate and gives us the confidence to, as we're saying here, continue to prioritize the same things, which is making sure everyone gets home safely. But also we genuinely every single day experience examples of the best of both companies. We have a pool now that's wider than what we had individually before to experiences, to someone who's likely has dealt with the same kind of solutions we need to deliver for our clients. And it basically feels, like there's fewer challenges that we can't figure out as a combined organization. So that shows up in two ways. The commonality is clearer and the ability to tackle challenges is even stronger.
That's fantastic. And that's back to what you said earlier, Adi, about bringing the best of the both worlds and really now starting to see that in action. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Coming back, Aziz, you spoke earlier about the importance of early preparedness. And one example that I know we've spoken about before was having HSE kits that were ready ahead of inspection. We discussed before the importance of that and how it made a big difference. Can you perhaps walk us through some of the challenges that you were trying to solve there and why that approach has made such a difference?
Yes, at the beginning of the project, we recognized earlier that once the pace accelerates, the rig cannot be waiting on critical HSC equipment or nor documentations. So what we have done, myself and the team here, so we have staged the rig lines, we assembled the equipment, prepared those kits ahead of time, conducted those inspections that is required, the surface that is required for those HSC critical equipment. And then we have done at the end the verification and controls of the documentation part of it. So we ensure at the end that we are in compliance before we are ready to mobilize. This is actually is actively care in action, or let's say in practice. We are controlling and removing exposure through planning and verification prior to execution. So I would answer in this way. I don't know if Adi would have something in his mind.
I was smiling as is because as you were saying that, I think this question kind of takes me back to when we started the journey, right? I think most people see the reactivations as starting in October 2025. The discussions and the work Aziz on the safety side was doing with the team he leads started around June, July. And I remember initially trying to make the case for doing some work preemptively and expecting to have to sell that on the safety side very hard to Aziz. But I think you were sold from the first two sentences and you absolutely got what we're trying to do, which is take the inspection of safety equipment off the critical path, as well as set ourselves up for success by doing some of this work ahead of time. But we also had very good management buy into this, yeah? Because with this, there's sometimes a cost element which we had to get buy-in on, and absolutely, the management team bought into that as soon as they knew it was safety equipment. And it was good to see the results at the end of the day. I think on the safety side, it was pretty smooth because we started early. We had the buy-in, and like I like to say, we succeeded on paper prior to touching any equipment and starting the inspections. It's, good practice or best practice playing out in real life. And I remember this very, very clearly from the journey we've been on, Aziz.
That's great. And perhaps you've already answered the next question I was going to ask about how do we keep that same safety disciplines in place when there's pressure to keep moving. But what struck me there, Adi, when you mentioned taking things off the critical path, perhaps that's an interesting point that that could answer that. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I do. Yes, that's certainly one way we try to do that. Yes.
Yeah. And how else might we go about that, Aziz? Keeping that same safety discipline when there's pressure to keep things fast moving.
I would second Adi on what he had been talking about, but also when we go back to the fundamentals of HMP is the pre-job planning, setting the clear expectations, going back also to the accountability elements and our core values and 10 life bills. If we ensured a discipline across these, we would not be under pressure.
We're setting ourselves up for success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Indeed. And Lisa and Aziz, one of the other ways I like to picture this is that, ultimately for every one of us, from the crew to the boardroom, trying to every day live the HMP core values, every single one of them points to doing things safely. And I know actively care stands out, but, safety is about doing the right thing, having the innovative spirit and all the other values outlined there. Another one I remember in our earlier discussion as is was the push from yourself to make sure that we create the routine safety culture that we have in normal operations and apply that to reactivation. So we're not only making sure people engage by routine because we're creatures of routine. But by doing that routinely without even thinking, we're also encouraging safe practices. So that routine, making sure before every task, we do the toolbox talks, making sure that people are submitting the safety observation cards, the usual things we apply in operations. I know Aziz and team are also keen to apply that in the reactivation. So in a way, it takes that pressure off because good safety practice is just what we do routinely as part of engaging with the tasks on a daily basis rather than something people are being pressured into doing.
Makes perfect sense. So what then would you say is one behavior or mindset that you would encourage other teams to adopt when they're perhaps facing a fast-paced or non-routine environment? What might be some practical tips they could take?
I would to be more open-minded. When, as we stated earlier, reactivation is an environment where it continuously changes. So it is important that we have an open mindset, as well as the availability of to be adapted to the changes. How quick you are being adapted to the changes goes also for how open-minded you are to those changes. If you are open-minded but you are not adaptive, then there is the gap. However, the more you are open-minded and the more you are adapted, it goes hand in hand, and it will fast move those hurdles. I would say pretty to be open-minded and accept the changes and adapt quickly.
And to add to that, my advice on the mindset to adopt, and I think about this a lot and I look out for how people are applying that whenever we do the field visits and look to apply it myself, is SLAM, SLAM, prior to starting any task, regular intervals while you're doing a task. And if something changes in the process of, doing a task, non-routine in this case, like the question stage, just SLAM. And SLAM is an acronym for stop, look, assess, and manage. It feels like one that, ultimately, if you're in that mindset, it allows you to have better situational awareness and take a proactive approach to safety.
And it's that authority, I guess, to stop the job. Anyone can if something doesn't feel right or doesn't feel safe. So that's reinforcing that. Okay. And now, how would you say, like both of you, where you've seen the best of both companies show up most clearly as we've moved through integration?
I would say through reactivation, simple as that. So the best of both on the same table, working their plan and its execution plan for the big milestone as a combined company in Saudi Arabia. So we have the best of the best, leveraging both legacies experience. And we are seeing those efforts paying off in the first two mobilized rigs, which means that we hit the milestone of the integration.
I think for myself, the two things that come to mind, how I've seen this show up is, first of all, in our people. I think I said that earlier, that now we have access to this wonderful pool of very talented people that were previously in two separate companies are now part of one. So that shows up in all kinds of forms, right? From the ideas we generate to the solutions we propose, to our ability to interact with stakeholders, clients, crews. It's just richer than it was prior to this coming together, which is good. But the other one I see on a daily basis is the expanded service offering that we have as a combined organization. So that's, whether the fact that we have more technologies now that help our clients drill wells better, or access to, jointly Bentech, our in-house OEM. And again, there's all kinds of examples there of an expanded service offering. That's really exciting to see in our ability to deliver value to our customers.
So shifting gears a little now, I'm going to do a quick fire sentence that I'm going to ask you to finish for me. So we achieve safe performance when we
create enabling environment and keep accountability clear and stay disciplined.
Okay. And for me, it's when we actively care by controlling and removing exposures while taking a proactive approach to safety.
Perfect. Okay, well, we're probably coming closer to the end of our time together. So I'd like to thank you both, Aziz and Adi, for sharing your great insights and the practical examples. It's really bringing our safety journey to life. I'd also like to thank everyone for listening, and you can find more safety resources and examples of our good practice through our usual H&P channels. So until next time, stay safe, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Aziz. Bye-bye.